What is going on, you guys? It is your boy, Matt Talks Films. I am back with another review. I'm back with another video, and this time I'm talking about one of the greatly anticipated films of 2025, and I'm talking about one of the greatest marketed films I've ever seen in my lifetime. I'm 23, so that probably speaks to my age, but it's true. I have not seen a film greatly marketed as this one. Like, the marketing for this film is truly exceptional and palpable, and you could tell when you go to the theaters because the theaters are packed to the brim, and you can tell how hyped and anticipated people were for this film. The film I'm talking about today here is Weapons, the follow up to Barbarian from the director Zach Cregger, and starring Julia Gardner and Josh Brolin and the rest of the cast, which is also stacked. This film is the best film of 2025. I'm sorry, Eddington. Weapons took your chain. They took your throne. They sit atop of the throne. That is the best film of 2025 as of August 9th. Now, some of you who have seen my videos in the past are like, dude, you've had like four different best films of the year since June or May, since Sinners came out, which is true. But hey, I'm not in charge of what movies are being released in 2025 because, hey, the cream of the crop of 2025 has been exceptional, and there's been some really great films coming out. And honestly, it feels like every other week since Sinners, there's been some really great films coming out, and Weapons is the greater of all of them. And I think Weapons is truly exceptional. It's one of the most unique and visionary films I've seen in my lifetime. It's hard to get more original than this film, and I think the execution that is on display and the craftsmanship that is on display with Weapons is truly extraordinary. Now, before I get too deep into this film, if you haven't seen this film, please click off the video and go see it in theaters. It is, I said earlier, earlier this month, that Together was my favorite theater experience of the year, which it was at that point because it was absurd and stupid, and I loved laughing at the movie more than I loved laughing with it, and I just love the vibes of that movie despite how stupid and absurd it is. Well, this is 10 times the theater experience of Together. I mean, there are consistent reactions. I've seen it twice now to scenes in this film that I've never seen before. I haven't seen people react and interact with a film like this, and I don't even know when, to be honest. I was thinking maybe Conjuring, the original one, but people weren't reacting to Conjuring like they are reacting to this movie. I haven't seen people pull out their phones for this film yet through two showings. I haven't seen people be rude necessarily. I've seen people interact with the screen and be interactive with the film when the film calls for it. Like, it is truly a theater experience I've never experienced in my life, and it is a top five theater experience for me. I mean, you have to go see this film. You deserve to get off of work this weekend, have the weekend to yourself, and have this as one of your best experiences of the weekend and maybe of the year, because it was one of the best experiences of the year for me. Whether that speaks to my life or not, I don't know. I think it's one of the best theater experiences of the year, and you should go see it and experience it for yourself because you deserve it. Weapons, go see it. Like, comment, and subscribe on this video to see my face more and to see more of this content. Follow me everywhere at Matt Talks Films before we get into it. I'll see you guys everywhere. But anyway, Weapons. One of the main reasons I was hyped about this film was because of Zach Cregger. Now, Barbarian was such a great film, despite it not being perfect, despite it not being a masterpiece. I think it's one of the great horror films of 2020 of the 2020s, and I highly suggest it if you haven't seen it. But I think a lot of people have seen it by now. Barbarian was great, and a lot of the things about that film was great. The story, the way the characters were written, the way the world was built, the atmosphere that was crafted for us, and the filmmaking first and foremost. When you're watching that film, you can tell the filmmaking is at an all-time high, and you can tell it's coming from someone that truly cares about the art of filmmaking. The shot selections weren't lazy. The framing was utilized perfectly and was meaningful. The shots selected for that film were perfect. If there's one thing perfect about that film, it is the cinematography, the framing, and the shot selections. And that really got me hyped for whatever Zach Cregger would do next in the future. So whenever I thought of Barbarian or watched Barbarian, I thought of what Zach Cregger could give us in the future. And what he has given us in the year 2025 to follow up Barbarian is nothing short of improvement and honestly masterful. Like, this film is masterful. I don't know if I'd call it a masterpiece, 100 out of 100, a 10 out of 10, but it is a masterful film and a masterpiece, quite honestly, nearly one. Like, it's hard for me not to say otherwise and give a film that high of praise. It's just hard for me not to do that because of what I witnessed with this film. And I have a hot take, just to start off the video, maybe even a clip. People say Jordan Peele is the best visionary and best horror filmmaker we have in 2025 and this new era of filmmaking. I disagree. I like Jordan Peele. I think he's a really good filmmaker. Zach Cregger is the better filmmaker. I hate to say it. I hate to break it to you. Zach Cregger is the better filmmaker out of the two. I'm taking Weapons and Barbarian over Us, Nope, and Get Out. I'm sorry to break it to you. I am. I just am. I think what Cregger does filmmaking wise, the shots he selects and the stories he crafts are more unique and more endearing and more refreshing to me than the stuff Jordan Peele puts out. And that's not a knock on Jordan Peele. Don't take that as me saying that as a knock to Jordan Peele, because I really respect Jordan Peele and I'm looking forward to his next work. I like his work. But I'm taking Zach Cregger. If I had to do a draft 101 of horror filmmakers, I am taking Zach Cregger. It's plain and simple. I think what he does from scale to spectacle, from storytelling to filmmaking, is better than Jordan Peele, in my opinion. I am taking his filmography over Jordan Peele. And also, if Ari Aster is making horror films, he is a better filmmaker than Jordan Peele as well. And Ari Aster is the only horror filmmaker that is compatible with Zach Cregger, to me, in my opinion. Ari Aster made Hereditary and Midsommar, for Christ's sake. So those are two great films that I'm also taking over any of Jordan Peele's filmography. So that's my hot take. Cregger is a better filmmaker than Jordan Peele. And that's not any slight to Jordan Peele, because I think Cregger is that masterful. I also think Jordan Peele is masterful in some ways as well, but I'm taking Cregger. I'm taking my boy. I love his films. I think he's terrific, and he improves upon Barbarian here. The shot selections in this film, Weapons, is special. I mean, it just is special. One of my favorite things about Zach Cregger is the way he brings out these childlike fears that we've had suppressed within us. And honestly, I think a lot of us still have, which is the fear of the dark. The way he takes advantage of these dark hallways, these dark doorways, and ultimately just the darkness is truly masterful. I can't remember a horror filmmaker that takes advantage of that well and as well as Zach Cregger. I love that. I love fearing the dark again. I love having that emotion felt while watching a movie. And honestly, after watching this movie, my house was dark. I had to turn all the lights on again just to get to my bedroom, just to make sure I was safe. Because that's what Zach Cregger does. He takes advantage of that fear that you've had suppressed since you were a child, and it follows you all the way home. I had to fucking turn on the lights like 10 to 20 times as coming back to my house. And I had to run to my doorway so I wasn't stuck in the dark for a little while. Like, listen, I'm a grown-ass man. I'm just being honest with the fears that Zach Cregger brought out of me. I love that about Zach Cregger, taking advantage of fears that we've had suppressed since we were young kids. Now, the craftsmanship, like I've already noted, is that Zach Cregger just demonstrates perfectly, in my opinion. There is clearly a vision that he has with his films, and he executes them. That's what he does. That's what he will always do, it seems like, because two of the films that he's done so far, he demonstrates the craftsmanship that he has when it comes to filmmaking. I just love the way the camera moves in all of his films. It feels so purposeful, and it feels so warranted. And it feels like if that wasn't happening in this film, then it wouldn't be a Zach Cregger film. His filmmaking is identifiable, which is a huge compliment, because a lot of filmmakers, especially in 2025, their filmmaking is faceless or identity-less. Like, you can't identify their filmmaking, and that's what makes a great filmmaker, is their filmmaking is identifiable. You can tell it's a Zach Cregger movie when he's directing it. You can tell this is a Zach Cregger movie when he's directing it. The way the camera moves, the way the shots are selected, the cinematography, the way the characters are written, the way the story is being told to you, and the world building, the atmosphere building, I love it. Now, I told you the advantages he takes with the dark, empty doorways, empty hallways. Not only does that take out the fear that we've had since we were a kid about the dark, but it also does a great job in building atmosphere. And that's my favorite type of horror, atmospheric horror. He excels at atmospheric horror. Atmospheric horror does this one major thing, right? It keeps you in lockstep and locked in with the film. You are so locked in and immersed within the environment that is being crafted before your eyes that you have no choice but to be stuck in this world and walk lockstep with it and be in lockstep with it. When I watched this film twice now, the whole crowd, no phones are being taken out. The crowd is locked in with the whole film, and that's because of the atmosphere and the world that's being built for you. And that's because Zach Cregger is purposeful with his shots, and each shot of his makes you more immersed with the film as the film keeps on going. And he just knows how to open a film with the simplest of things. With this film, it's a black screen with a kid narrating. And you guys know, hopefully, maybe you guys honestly don't, because I'm like 11 full-length YouTube videos through. I am not the biggest fan of narration, but what the narration does with this film, it immediately hooks you. It hooks you into this film, and as the film progresses, you get more and more immersed, not only because of the story, but the shot selection and the atmosphere and the world that's being crafted for you. And I love the atmosphere that Cregger continues to build with his films. It's one of his best qualities: world building, atmosphere building, and the shot selections and the framing that he has equipped to his filmmaking style is perfection, and I love Zach Cregger for it. He's a master at it. Another great thing that he does in his films, characterization. I love the characters in his movies. They feel incredibly humane and adult. They do things that adults do. And I know people are like, oh, how can adults in films not do what adults do? It's very simple. A lot of adults in horror films are dumbed down. His characters aren't dumbed down. They are very humane and purposeful, and they have these character arcs. They have these flaws, and they also do adult-like things that make sense for adults. It's just a fact. Whether you could point to Barbarian, right? The character Tess in that one is so smart for the situation she's in. She's in a double-booked Airbnb with a guy she doesn't know. She's taking all the right steps that any other normal woman or person would do in that situation. Taking a picture of his ID, not sipping out of a drink that he just made for her. Like, she's doing all this smart and adult-like things, and the conversations they're having between the two that start that film is super adult and super humane, especially considering the situation. With this film, it's super human as well. Justine is the teacher in the situation, who I love the characterization of her character. Her character could have just been a teacher, right, that had her classes appear at night, and that could have been her depth. That could have been it. Instead, no, Zach Cregger makes her more interesting, more human, and way more intriguing, to where you're involved with her story heavily and you care about her situation. And also, you recognize her flaws. She's this teacher who's lost his classroom overnight, who's taking all the blame wrongfully. She's an alcoholic who's now reverted back to her alcoholism because of the situation, and she also is having an affair with a married man. So it's like, she also following Alex, who's the one kid that didn't leave overnight at 2:17 a.m., which is, just poor decision making, but she cares so much about the case that she wants to know what's going on with him. So I love what Zach Cregger does with his characters. I love how humane and adult he makes his characters. I think that is so important to his stories, and that's the main reason why he is such a good filmmaker and such a great storyteller. There's a lot of great characters in this film, and the way that they show off these characters and they showcase these characters is done in a structure that I've never seen done in a horror film. It is a similar structure to great films like Magnolia and Shortcuts. It's similar to that structure, and I've never seen it pulled off in a horror film, and the way it's pulled off in this film is truly admirable, because not only does it work and make the characters better, but it also makes the perspective of this film more intriguing, and it makes you get more and more hooked as you switch from characters. You go from Justine to Archer to Paul to James to Marcus, and then we get to Alex. And I love the way that film moves. I love the structure of it. I really admire that, and I think it's something unique and something super palpable that I've never seen in a horror film. I think the acting is absolutely terrific, and I think the characters are great, whether it's Justine, Archer, Paul. Archer is this dad played by Josh Brolin that I'm going to talk about it here, another hot take. Pedro Pascal was supposed to be Archer in this film. Pedro Pascal to drop out of it to film Fantastic Four, which led to the recasting of this whole cast. And I'm here to tell you, despite Pedro Pascal making a hell of a lot of money with Fantastic Four and Avengers in the future, he made a grave mistake in my opinion. He really did. Because he could have done something else Marvel-wise after this film. Weapons is going to be a film that's forever iconic to me. And now, where Marvel is heading, and where the Avengers are going, in my opinion, I don't care about any of those, and I think a lot of people don't, because if you look at Fantastic Four's second week, it's clear that no one cares about that movie and people aren't liking that movie and the word of mouth about that movie isn't very good. And this film would have been a completely different film with Pedro Pascal. And honestly, I think he would have done a really good job. He could have even done a great job. I don't know if this film would have been better or worse with him. I don't know. But the character that Archer is in this film that is played by Josh Brolin, I don't think he could have played it well. And I don't know what the character was before he dropped out of it. I think he made a grave mistake because I think Weapons is going to be a film that is heralded for years to come. I think it's going to be a forever memorable film, and I think people are going to love this. And I think the word of mouth about this film is going to be exceptional because it could have been an Eddington, Weapons, and Materialist, which is absolutely insane. Instead, he was in Eddington, which is a masterpiece, Fantastic Four, and Materialist. So he pretty much hit the nail on the head for 1 out of 3 films, despite me liking Materialist quite a bit. So, Pedro Pascal, you made a mistake, but hey, you're going to make a lot of money. But honestly, you don't come off as the guy who cares more about money than the substance and working with great filmmakers like you could have with Zach Cregger. At least you work with Ari Aster. But hey, Josh Brolin as Archer is fucking great. He brings this sense of comedic prowess to the role, and he also brings an aspect of extreme relatability. The first shot that we see of Archer's character in this film is him sleeping in his son's bed. He is the only parent we see in this film that deeply cares about what happened to the kids and is actively trying to figure out what the fuck is going on, and ultimately he does, with his instinct and with his detectiveness, despite being this contractor. He figures out what's going on, and I love Josh Brolin in this. It's one of my favorite performances of the year. The way he is somehow able to bring out comedic ability from his performance, and the way he is able to showcase this splendid power through some of these action scenes is hilarious. He has a scene with Austin Abrams, aka James, a couple sequences in this film that are absolutely hilarious. And honestly, I haven't seen a crowd laugh as hard than I did with Archer and James, because the sequence that takes place between those two at the end of this film is brilliant. I loved it. Julia Gardner as Justine. I mentioned Justine's character earlier. Julia Gardner is great. She was the best part of Fantastic Four, and she's one of the better parts of this film. She is great. She plays an extremely relatable character, a flawed one, but she is great. She's a great actress, and I enjoy her a lot. Benedict Wong as Marcus. First time me personally seeing him outside of Marvel, not in a Doctor Strange movie. He is very good. He has a very compelling role, and ultimately, some of the stuff his character does is pretty sensational and pretty hectic and crazy. I love Benedict Wong in this movie. Alden Ehrenreich, one of my favorite unsung heroes in film at the moment. He played a young Han Solo pretty well, in my opinion. Despite that being a pretty unrecastable role, he somehow brought a little justice to that role. And then, he was great in Oppenheimer, which is a film that is, maybe you guys know, one of the greatest films of the 21st century, in my opinion. I love Alden Ehrenreich. He is great. His aspect of this story is one of my favorite parts of the film. Honestly, top 2 favorite part of my film, if it wasn't for the next character I'm about to talk about. Austin Abrams as James, playing the drug addict. I've seen Austin Abrams before. He is fucking terrific as the drug addict in this film. Him and Paul's storyline is some of the most compelling storylines I've seen all year. I love his character. It is egregiously funny. Parts of his story are egregiously scary. And I loved Austin Abrams as James. I thought he was just terrific. I really enjoyed Austin Abrams in this film. One of my favorite performances of the year. I'm not going to say it's the best performance of the year. It's one of my favorite performances of the year. How could it not be? He brought a lot to the role. The character is really good, and he made that character look as great as it was on paper. He made it look even greater on screen due to his execution. I really enjoyed him. Now, the last 2 characters and actors that are worth talking about to me is Kerry Christopher as Alex. He is really great. He's the final chapter of the story. He's the one kid that who didn't leave overnight. He is fantastic in this film, and I very much enjoyed Kerry Christopher's performance as Alex. One of the things that kid actors can struggle with is conveying emotion without saying any words. He does that mightily. There's a scene in this film where he has to take something from a classroom to bring back to his house. He's conveying emotion. The way he's scanning the room looking for something to take from each classmate is kind of brilliance for a young actor of his age. I very much enjoyed him. Amy Madigan as Gladys, who's ultimately a very integral part of this movie without spoiling it. She is terrific, very scary, I enjoyed her and Mac. I really enjoyed her storyline for this film. She was terrifying. She was intriguing as hell. I loved it. The way Zach Cregger can subvert your expectations is second to none, especially to any horror filmmaker, as I stated earlier in this video. The way he subverts your expectations while also stringing you along for the ride this whole film is exceptional. I love getting my expectations subverted because a lot of the time when watching films, I have a sense of predictability. This film has no sense of predictability. It is truly a film that keeps you guessing all the way until the end credits. It's just a film that is so beautiful. Despite getting the information about where the kids are relatively early in the film, you're still guessing. You still don't know what the fuck is going on. You still don't know what's happening. Zach Cregger is a master at subverting your expectations, and this film is another example, and honestly, it's his most masterful example of that until this date. He is great. I love having my expectations subverted. I love not being able to predict a film, because I've seen a lot of films. I'm 23. I have a sense of predictability when it comes to films. I had none whatsoever for this film. I was guessing. I didn't know what was happening. Honestly, the second time, I forgot what happened. I was like, wait, what's happening? I was like, oh yeah. I knew what was happening, but still, my expectations were subverted. And that's a powerful filmmaker. Zach Cregger is a master of being unpredictable. And for any people saying that this film is predictable, they are trying to be different and they're being a dick, because this film is not predictable at all. I mean, at all. It is not only intriguing, it is unpredictable, and honestly is pure visionary genius, in my opinion. What Zach Cregger does from a storytelling perspective and from a filmmaking perspective is honestly second to none. I love Zach Cregger's work, and this is his best work to date. It is honestly a masterpiece in my opinion. There's been like 4 films added to my all-time favorites list this year. 2025 is a hell of a year so far. People talk about Hollywood doesn't have any originality left. They are very wrong, extremely wrong. The cream of the crop, even some of the middle this year, there has been some original films that have been great. This is one of the best examples of it. Sinners, this film, Weapons. There are great films being made. You just have to go see it. You have to open up your palette, your movie palette, and go see films. Weapons is the prime example of that. If you go to this theater, and you might not like it, that's fine. But if you don't fucking enjoy and revel in the experience that this packed audience is giving you, then you might not have any soul. And I'm just being real. I hate to be so blunt about it, but if you go to this theater and you experience this crowd and the way this crowd is reacting to this film, and you don't feel anything, not even like a slight sense of joy, then you are wrong and you have no feelings. I mean, objectively, bro. Like, that's just how it is. Weapons is one of the greatest theater experiences I've ever had, and I can't believe how consistently the crowds are reacting to this film. It's sensational. I don't know how the crowds are reacting this consistent to this film. I love it. I love what Zach Cregger is doing to audiences with this film, and I deeply admire this film for that. Weapons, the best film of the year. I love this film, from the world building, the characterization, the filmmaking, the craftsmanship of it all, the scale of it all, the acting, the performances. Let's get to the ending, because this was the only time in the film I was like, oh man, please stick the landing, because the build-up, the liftoff was so perfect and so deeply intriguing. Before we find out the mystery, I was like, okay, the landing, please stick the landing. And I'm here to say the landing was stuck. I was worried it was going to have the effect like Longlegs did on the second time, where I was like, I know what happens, and Longlegs got worse on second watch. This movie somehow got greater on second watch. This film is even greater on second watch. I love this film. It sticks the landing. The ending is absolutely batshit insane, and it's also somehow one of the greatest comedic moments of the year in film. People were roaring in laughter during the end chase scene and during the end fight sequences between James and Archer, which were hilarious. People were deeply and deafeningly laughing at this film at the end of it, and I fucking love that. A horror film that can make you laugh as loud and as crazy as this film does is special. Zach Cregger, the way he blends tones here is beautiful. He demonstrates a sense of blending tones. He does it great in Barbarian when Justin Long's character. By the way, Justin Long shows up in this film, almost got a fucking clap from the crowd. I was sitting with some real movie heads in this crowd. People almost started clapping for Justin Long. Fuck yeah. In my brain I was clapping, I'll tell you that. But anyway, Cregger, I've talked about how great he is in a lot of different areas in film. He's also great at blending tones. He blends tones perfectly. He did it in Barbarian with levity, in comedy, in horror. He does it again here. He has some of the funniest sequences all year in one of the darkest films of the year. So that is terrific. I love that. Cregger, you are a master in a lot of spaces, and you're also a master of blending tones, which I love. Stakes are at an all-time high. The build-ups are at a great high. The payoffs are paid off. I mean, the ending, the imagery at the end of it almost even got me emotional on second watch. Seeing Alex hug his parents, seeing Archer hug his son and walk off into the street aimlessly, like seeing the imagery of kids doing something of some matter at the end was tremendous. I don't think I've ever seen kids do that at the end of a movie ever. But now I'm gonna get into some spoilers a little bit. I have some things I want to talk about. I have some nitpicks that I can't talk about without saying any spoilers. So if you've seen this film and you want to hear my nitpicks, keep on going. But here are my final non-spoiler thoughts. This is the best film of the year, from the world building to the characterization to the storyline, to the plot lines, to the performances, to the craftsmanship of the filmmaking, to the tone blend. This film is terrific. It's the best film of the year. It's very effective in its horror. It's very effective in its comedic ways. It is effective in every way you want a great film to be. It's a unique film. It's a creative one. It's truly a visionary tale that you need to experience for yourself. Go see Weapons, a 10 out of 10, 100 out of 100, best film of the year, added to my all-time favorites list. Go see this film. It is truly special. Zach Cregger is the best horror filmmaker we have. Now, we're talking spoilers and nitpicks. Now, if I had to pick some nitpicks, here are some of the nitpicks, and I'll be playing some devil's advocate. Heavy emphasis, right, to start this film, about Ring cameras. Some of the homes of the kids that disappeared had Ring cameras at their home. So, they caught the kids running away into the darkness, right? At the end of this film, after we find out the mystery of it all, we find out, Alex, we find out it wasn't just a coincidence. You weren't the only kid disappearing. Your Aunt Gladys is responsible for this. She wants to somehow obtain a sense of usefulness from these kids and from the parents of Alex. So she is a witch, apparently, and she's taking the age and youthfulness from the kids and from his parents to preserve her life. And that's pretty much what we find out the mystery is. And Aunt Gladys has taken over Alex's household, kept him and left him be, told him, hey, don't say anything about what's going on to this house and to your parents, or your parents will die by my hand, essentially. So one day, as the parents' lives aren't giving her more youth, she says to Alex, get stuff from your kid's classroom. Hopefully they can help me. And he takes stuff from the classroom brilliantly, might I add you. And ultimately, that's what leads to the kids running to her house. Now, there's a shot at the end of this film where the kids are running on the street to his house. I'm supposed to believe there's no Ring cameras on the houses that were on that street. The houses weren't that far from the street. They could have caught the kids running. But here's the thing I thought about on the way home. I don't have a Ring camera. Some people in 2025 don't have Ring cameras, so I can chalk that up as, hey, people don't have Ring cameras. Some people don't still. So those houses on that block do not have Ring cameras. Or they just didn't know the kids ran that way. So there could be a nitpick that could easily be chalked up to, hey, they didn't know where the kids ran off to, and the people didn't check the Ring cameras at that house if they did have Ring cameras, or they just didn't have Ring cameras. That could be the nitpicks right there. That could be solvable, aka you could chalk it up. And honestly, I can overlook it because the rest of this film is so great. Also, ending of this film, where Gladys is ripped to shreds by the kids due to Alex brilliantly playing the rope-a-dope. Brilliant performance by Alex at the end of this film to save everyone in this world. The way the kids chase after Gladys is one of the most exhilarating scenes of the year, and honestly, it's super funny. I was not expecting the kids to rip her apart. They rip her apart, rip her to shreds. I was trying to think, have I ever seen kids rip apart a person in a movie before? That's another unique and original thing. I've never seen that before. And Zach Cregger does it, and he does it masterfully. The end shots of this film are beautiful and intense, and the stakes are beautifully capped off. I love that aspect. There's also a scene in this film that is continuously getting the most intense and shocking reactions I've maybe seen in my lifetime. There's a scene in this film where Justine, she's no longer the teacher at the school because this people, everyone, all the parents hate her. They suspect her of wrongdoing. So she's doing her own detectiveness, right? If that's even a fucking word. She's an alcoholic, mind you. She's been arrested for a DUI in the past. She has some trouble past. She keeps on following Alex home. One day she's following Alex home and she asks him how he's doing and he's like, stop following me. Right. As we know later, he was just trying to save his parents and keep his parents alive and not get himself in trouble. But there's one day, just drinking alcohol, knocking on the door, no answer. So what does she decide to do? She decides to stake out the house. But here's what happens. She gets so drunk, she falls asleep in her car. So it's nighttime. There's a couple of great shots where it goes from her pouring alcohol into a cup from midday into the night where she's fully passed out. And here's the greatness of this scene. We get a shot of Alex's house. The door opens up and it's dark for a little bit, taking advantage yet again of another empty doorway. What happens? Someone starts walking out of the doorway with the scissors. They're walking super weird. The crowd is now in roars uproar. And the person with the scissors is walking towards the door, gets to the car door, looks inside the car door, walks past the car door. So everyone's like, oh, that's it, that's all that happens. And then the subtle, and great sound design, you hear the car door open, and it uproars into this biggest loud yell in a theater I've heard maybe in my lifetime. People were getting deeply disturbed by that scene. And it's one of the great crowd reactions I've ever seen in my life. That scene that involves a car, a scissors, and an empty doorway and someone walking towards the car and getting into the said car and cutting off someone's hair is one of the most electric theater sequences I've been a part of. And honestly, I love that sequence. I love that scene. And I love what that scene is doing to crowds. I'm not going to overtalk this film, and I don't want to get into too much spoilers because that's not how I want to operate. I want to ruin this film for anyone. So go see this film. That's probably it for my spoiler talk. Gladys is a witch. She's responsible for what's going on and what happened to the kids in that classroom. I love the sequences with Paul and James. I can't get that overstated enough. That is fucking brilliance. Whatever the fuck is happening between those two. James, played by Austin Abrams, is this huge and pivotal character in the story because he's a drug addict. He has this crazy situation with Paul that unfolds where he's a drug addict looking for money. He's opening cars as he's talking on the phone. He's just trying to get money so he can get drugs. There's a sequence where he's peeking into like a warehouse so he can try to break into. Paul chases after him, pulls him over, detains him. Paul is searching him like any cop does, and it's like, hey, do you have any sticky stuff in your pocket that you're going to stick me? He says no, reaches in his pocket, gets stuck. Paul knocks him out, and there's the character dynamic right there. Paul and James. Paul hates James for maybe getting him infected with AIDS, which is also one of the funniest scenes of the year. And that unfolds. After that situation happens, James goes searching for more money and more things to rob so he can turn into a pawn shop. What house does he come across? Alex's house. And that's where we find what happened to the kids after James breaks into the house, climbs up the piping on the side of the house, and gets into the house and steals some stuff. And upon stealing some stuff, he sees Alex's parents, who are all fucked up, can't talk, just sitting there. And as he goes into the basement, he sees a group of kids who just suddenly turn back and look at him, which is also one of the craziest scenes of the year. I love that. I love the storyline. And then also there's a scene in this film where James is going to the police department because he wants to get the $50,000 reward for the kids that are missing. So he's heading to the police department, but before that, Paul told him, hey, if I ever see you around the police department, you are dead, because he can get in trouble for punching and knocking out fucking James for what, like, he turned off his dash cam, he knocked him out. So he doesn't want to see James around the police department. So Paul sees James going to the police department. Paul, who's already angry for other stuff happening in his life, he fucking gets angry, and there the chase begins for James. And then James gets back to his tent. He thinks it's someone else opening his tent. He stabs him again with the needles in his face. So now Paul is like infected with AIDS times 4. It was brilliant. I'm over explaining this film because I love it so much, but it is one of the greatest films I've seen in theaters. It's a truly an all-time great theater experience. I love this film. I can't wait to see what Cregger does next and in his future. Apparently, he's going to be directing a Resident Evil film, which is sensational. I don't know how much I love the decision. I would prefer if he kept on making original horror films. He also wants to make a sequel to this film. Don't know how I feel about that, but hey, if you're making it, I am down. I am down for you to make it, because honestly, you are a filmmaker now, especially after this film. I am on board with anything you make. Anything you make, I am fucking in. I am in for the ride you're going to bring me on. Zach Cregger, you are masterful. This film is palpable. This film is effective in every way. The world building, the characterization, the characters that are written so well, the acting performances, the atmospheric build-up, the horror, the uniqueness, the originality, the creativity, the visionary that is executed perfectly on screen. I love every bit of that. Go see this film. It is an experience you will never forget. It is a film that you will love if you have great taste. If you have great taste, you will love this film. So go see this fucking film. It is your boy Matt Talks Films. I'll see you guys soon. I don't know when's the next time you guys are going to see me. Next week is Nobody 2. I have a slogan for that movie, which I will probably review. Nobody Cares. I mean, it's pretty much just a ripoff of John Wick, played by Bob Odenkirk, who I can't buy in that role at all. But I will review that movie because I'm dedicated to this craft. But you know what? Maybe I'll review one of my favorite films of all time. Maybe I'll start a new series like Oscar robberies, which I think I'm going to be starting on TikTok. Maybe I'll bring it over to YouTube. However, it is your boy Matt Talks Films. Weapons is the film of the year. It's one of the most unique and creative films I've ever seen in my lifetime. It is batshit insane. It is batshit creative, and it is beautifully executed by Zach Cregger and company. Go see this film. It's your boy Matt Talks Films. Follow me everywhere at Matt Talks Films. Subscribe, like, and comment if you agree with this video. I'll see you guys on the flip side.